Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Unleash.
Ever get excited for a new app update only to find it crashes your phone? Imagine that frustration, but multiply it by millions of users.
Oh, yeah.
That's the daily tightrope walk for companies pushing new software features.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes world, no doubt. And the stakes just keep getting higher.
No kidding. This stack of articles on feature management platforms and feature flags you sent, intense stuff. But also, what are they? Layman's terms, please.
Think of it like this. These platforms are the unsung heroes of smooth software rollouts.
Okay.
Imagine updating millions of phones seamlessly without anyone even noticing.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Okay, that sounds way less intimidating than I thought. But why all the fuss? What's the big deal if a feature rolls out a little bumpy?
Well, one of these articles throws out a pretty compelling statistic. Application downtime costs organizations an average of $400,000 per hour.
Wait, $400,000 every hour? That's insane. Suddenly, a few frustrated users seem like a drop in the bucket.
Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame for these large enterprises. And it's not just about the financial hit. Think about the reputational damage, the frustrated customers who can't access your service, the lost productivity. It all adds up.
So they're under immense pressure to constantly innovate. But one wrong move could cost them a fortune. It sounds like a recipe for sleepless nights.
You've got that right. Especially in the past, many companies relied on their own internal homegrown solutions for managing these feature releases. But as they scale, these solutions just can't keep up.
Makes sense. It's like using a bicycle to deliver pizzas when you're a global chain.
Right.
It worked at first, but now you need something far more robust.
Precisely. These homegrown solutions quickly become difficult to maintain. They lack the advanced features needed for complex rollouts, and their reliability can be a major issue.
So what's the solution? How do these companies, like we're talking SAP, Visa, even the Norwegian Labor and Welfare Administration, how are they navigating this insane world of constant software updates without major meltdowns?
That's where feature management platforms and this whole concept of feature flags come into play.
All right, so we've used those terms a couple of times now. Before we go any further, can you break down the difference between those two? What exactly is a feature flag?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. A feature flag is essentially a switch in your code. Let's say you have a new feature you're developing, but you're not ready to release it to everyone just yet. You can deploy that feature with a flag attached to it.
Okay, so it's like having a kill switch for a new feature.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, you can just flip the switch and shut it off before it impacts everyone.
That's one way to use them, and that's where the feature management platform comes in. It's essentially a central dashboard where you can manage and control all of these different feature flags.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So it's less about the individual flags and more about having a centralized system to control them all and orchestrate those rollouts. It's giving me air traffic control tower vibes, but for software features.
That's a great analogy. These platforms give companies granular control over which users have access to which features and when.
You mentioned granular control. What does that look like in practice?
Well, imagine you're rolling out a new payment gateway on a global scale. Instead of pushing it live for everyone at once, you could use a feature management platform to gradually roll it out to specific user groups.
Like a soft launch, but with way more precision.
Exactly. You could start with a small percentage of your user base, maybe in a specific geographic location, and monitor its performance in a real-world setting.
And if there are issues,
Yeah.
you can contain the damage and make adjustments before rolling it out more widely. That sounds oddly calming, considering the alternative.
That's the power of these platforms. They remove much of the risk and uncertainty associated with traditional software releases. You're not taking a leap of faith, you're taking a calculated approach.
It sounds like a complete game changer.
Yeah.
But these platforms sound pretty sophisticated. Who are the major players in this space?
There are a number of companies doing really interesting things in the feature management space, but one name that keeps popping up in these articles is Unleash.
Unleash.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about them. What makes them stand out?
Well, for starters, they're open source.
Okay.
This means their core platform is free to use and modify, which is a huge draw for developers, especially those working on smaller projects or within budget constraints.
So it's accessible to a wide range of companies, not just those with deep pockets.
Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Even though they're open source, they haven't compromised on features or capabilities. They offer robust security, enterprise-grade controls, and the ability to scale to handle massive user bases.
So they're bridging the gap between the flexibility of open source and the needs of large enterprises.
Right.
That seems like a sweet spot.
It really is, and it's clearly resonating with companies. These articles mention some big names who are using Unleash successfully, including Total Wine & More and Wayfair, just to name a few.
Okay, now those are some names I recognize. What are people at those companies saying about Unleash? Okay, now those are some names I recognize.
Huh?
What are people at those companies saying about Unleash?
The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. We have a quote here from Jason Crow,
Okay.
the lead principal architect at Total Wine & More. He highlighted the importance of Unleash's robust security features and how they were able to run the entire infrastructure within their own environment, meeting their strict data security standards.
That makes sense, especially for a company like Total Wine & More dealing with sensitive customer information. Security is paramount these days.
Absolutely. And then there's the case of Wayfair. They actually had an internal feature flag solution they built themselves before making the switch to Unleash.
Oh, really? So they had a homegrown solution but decided to go with a third-party platform. There must have been a compelling reason for that.
There were actually several. Mark Quigley, their head of internal developer platforms, talked about how Unleash ended up being significantly more cost-effective than maintaining their in-house solution. Plus, they saw a major improvement in reliability and scalability.
So they're saving money, getting better performance, and they probably freed up their development team to focus on other things.
Yeah.
I can see why they'd be happy with that decision.
It really highlights how switching to a dedicated feature management platform can be a game changer for these companies. They can leverage the expertise and continuous development of a company like Unleash, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel internally.
It's like the old saying, do what you do best and outsource the rest.
Precisely. And the benefits go beyond just the technical aspects. This article from Unleash delves into how feature management can actually change the entire software development culture within an organization.
Oh, tell me more about that. How does it impact company culture?
Well, when you take away the fear of breaking things,
Yeah.
when you empower developers to experiment and innovate without the constant threat of downtime or a catastrophic release, it fosters a culture of experimentation and learning.
It's like giving your development team a safety net and saying, go ahead, try new things, be bold. If it doesn't work, we can always roll it back.
Exactly. This psychological safety is so important for innovation, and it leads to faster development cycles, quicker responses to user feedback, and ultimately a better product for everyone.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of user feedback, it seems like feature management plays a huge role in shaping the user experience. We talked a little about targeted rollouts, but what other ways can companies use these tools to improve the customer experience?
One word: personalization. With feature flags and a robust management platform, companies can personalize experiences like never before.
Okay, break that down for me. What does personalization look like in this context?
Imagine you're a global e-commerce company. With feature flags, you could instantly enable different payment gateways for different regions based on user preferences. Or, let's say you're testing a new feature, but you're not sure how it will land with your entire user base. You can use feature flags to gradually roll it out to specific demographics or user segments.
So you're essentially conducting A/B testing in a live environment, gathering real-time data on how users are interacting with these new features.
Precisely. And if something isn't resonating with users, you can easily turn it off or roll it back without disrupting the experience for everyone else. It's about making data-driven decisions and constantly optimizing the user experience based on real-time feedback.
It sounds like this could be incredibly powerful, especially for companies with large and diverse user bases. No more one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And it allows companies to be much more agile and responsive to changing market conditions or customer needs. They can experiment with new features and ideas, gather data, and iterate much faster than they could with traditional software development methods.
It really highlights how software development is no longer just about writing code. It's about strategy, about understanding your users and constantly adapting to their needs.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a fundamental shift in mindset.
We've talked a lot about Unleash. You mentioned they cater to both developers and large enterprises. How do they manage to balance those sometimes conflicting priorities?
That's a great question. For developers, they need a platform that's intuitive, flexible, and allows them to work quickly without a lot of red tape. And Unleash delivers on that front. Their platform is designed with developers in mind, with a user-friendly interface and a rich set of features.
So it's developer-friendly, which is key for adoption. But what about the enterprise side? What are their needs, and how does Unleash address them?
Enterprises have different priorities for sure. They need stability, security, and control. They need to ensure that their data is protected and that they're compliant with all relevant regulations. And that's where Unleash's enterprise-grade features come in.
What kind of features are we talking about? Give me the specifics.
Well, for starters, they offer robust access controls and permissions,
Okay.
ensuring that only authorized personnel can make changes to feature flags. They also have detailed audit logs, so you can track every change made to the system. This is crucial for maintaining security and compliance, especially in heavily regulated industries.
Right. You need that paper trail. What else?
They offer single sign-on SSO integration, so you can manage user access from a central location, and they have dedicated support teams available around the clock to assist with any issues. These are all critical features that enterprises expect.
So it's like they've taken the core functionality of an open source platform and wrapped it in an enterprise-grade security blanket. Best of both worlds.
That's a great way to put it, and it's not just speculation. Remember, we were talking about the Norwegian Labor and Welfare Administration?
Yeah, that's right. I'm still trying to wrap my head around them making over 1,400 releases a week with Unleash.
It's a perfect example of how a feature management platform can empower an organization to move at lightning speed without sacrificing stability or security. Before Unleash, they were limited to just 4 major releases per year.
It's mind-blowing how much that changes the game. They can respond to user feedback, implement new features, and fix bugs at a speed that was previously unimaginable for an organization of their size.
Exactly. It's a completely different ballgame, and it highlights how feature management isn't just some niche technology for tech companies. It's relevant for any organization that relies on software to deliver its products or services.
It really makes you think, what other innovations are quietly being rolled out right now, hidden behind these feature flags?
It's an exciting thought, isn't it? We're on the cusp of a whole new era of software development, and it's all happening behind the scenes, often without us even realizing it.
Speaking of behind the scenes, these articles mentioned something called rollout strategies. What exactly are those, and how do they fit into all of this? Speaking of behind the scenes, these articles mentioned something called rollout strategies. What exactly are those, and how do they fit into all of this?
It's not enough to just have the on-off switch of a feature flag. Rollout strategies are about how you actually use those flags to release features strategically.
Okay, so less about the switch itself, more about the game plan for using it. Give me some examples.
One common strategy is called a canary release. Imagine you're releasing a new feature. Instead of giving everyone access at once, you enable it for a tiny percentage of users. Maybe 1% or even less.
So they're like the canary in the coal mine, testing the waters for everyone else.
Precisely. These users might not even realize they're testing something new, but you're closely monitoring their experience, looking for any unexpected behavior, any bugs, any signs of trouble.
And if the canary faints,
Yeah.
you hit the kill switch before it impacts the entire user base.
Sure.
Smart. What other strategies are out there?
There's ring deployment, where you gradually roll out a feature to larger and larger groups, like ripples in a pond. You might start with internal employees, then expand to a small group of beta testers, then maybe 10% of your users, and so on.
So each ring gives you more data, more confidence, before you take the plunge with a full release.
Exactly. And the beauty is, if you detect a problem at any point, you can pause the rollout, make adjustments, or even roll it back entirely. No more frantic late-night patches.
This is all starting to paint a very different picture of software development. Less about these big, stressful launches, and more about constant iteration, experimentation, data-driven decisions.
You're getting it. And that's what's so exciting about this world of feature management. It's changing the game, not just for developers, but for the entire business.
It's like we're moving away from that old waterfall model of development where everything is planned out in advance to something much more agile and responsive.
That's a great observation, and it speaks to a larger shift in how companies operate today. It's all about speed, adaptability, and being able to respond to changing customer needs in real time.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from the high cost of downtime to the power of feature flags to the sophisticated rollout strategies. What's the one big takeaway you hope listeners walk away with?
For me, it's that this isn't just about technology. It's about changing the way we think about software development. It's about embracing experimentation, being comfortable with iteration, and using data to drive decisions.
It's about making software development less about holding your breath and hoping for the best, and more about a controlled, strategic approach to innovation.
Exactly. And that shift has the power to unlock incredible potential for businesses of all sizes.
I'm ready to see what they come up with next.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been eye-opening.
My pleasure. Always exciting to see someone else get hooked on the possibilities of feature management.
And for our listeners, if you're feeling that spark of curiosity, don't let it fade. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Dive into those articles, explore the world of Unleash and other platforms, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one building the next game-changing software experience. Until next time, keep exploring.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.